YouTube going. The Goat House is back after an interesting Thursday night football game here in Week 4 between the Broncos and the Jets. I'm here to break it down, give you my takeaways. Not the best competition on the field, a lot of penalties, a lot of injuries, some sloppy play, but in a way it was entertaining. I'll give you my takeaways here. I don't have too much, but I'm excited to talk about some things, including on the Jets side. I really want to talk about Adam Gase, Greg Williams, and Jamal Adams in a way, actually talk about that trade a little bit. That kind of goes into Greg Williams. We'll talk about that in a bit here. I got some takeaways from both sides. But here at the Goat House, we got full NFL coverage, picks, score predictions, power rankings, all updated every single week. We got plenty more, always adding more content as well, some fantasy videos and more. Please subscribe, smash that like button, turn notifications on. You're going to want to follow that Twitter. I live tweet every game, give you my thoughts there. And that goes on to Sunday. That goes through Monday, of course. So every game pretty much. And I'm constantly talking NFL and about our channel. So that's a must-follow link down below. Instagram, podcast, Patreon. A lot going on here at the Goat House. Real quick, talk about the Patreon. Junior's got his score predictions. I got my locks of the week. If you're looking to put money on games, I've been pretty successful in the last 2 weeks, so hoping to get another good week here. Feeling pretty good. College ball score predictions, updated playoff predictions coming in the near future. We'll update those every single week for the Patreon members. Bonus content, Discord access, and we're already looking to adding more stuff, trying to get those Patreon members involved more in the channel. So more things coming in the very near future here during the NFL season as it gets going. But the Broncos put up 37 points. The Jets scored 28. More of a shootout than we all expected. But in a way, you kind of can see this because of the turnovers, because of how sloppy the defense was. You could put up these teams could put up points on each other, really. But yeah, really, you could see it. But I was very surprised at 37-28. I kind of want to talk about the first drive right off the bat. Darnold was able to run, and that was kind of a negative, as you see on the screen there, for the Broncos, was tackling Darnold. It didn't really seem like they had a problem tackling anybody else but Sam Darnold, which was interesting, to say the least. It was very strange. But that first touchdown, I was speechless. I don't think I said anything. Like, usually you would think that'd be a play because I can get amped up sometimes, but I just didn't even know what to say, how to react from that play. It was one of the more poor defensive plays I've ever seen, really. Darnold put on the moves. He escaped the sack from A.J. Johnson. Was a little disappointed that A.J. Johnson didn't get that sack on a great blitz call by Vic Fangio. But that stuff happens. He's not an edge rusher, A.J. Johnson, that is. He, should make the sack, but that stuff happens. But then, so credit to Darnold, escaping that sack, putting on some jukes, getting in the end zone, kept looking behind him, thinking somebody's going to get him. So I think he was a little surprised himself. But juking Justin Simmons, who was one of the better free safeties in football all of last year, and I do like Justin Simmons quite a bit. And free safeties are more for coverage, but still getting juked out of your jockstrap. Jockstrap laying on the field there by Sam Darnold. This is something else. And so just really poor angles, really poor tackling attempts. Kareem Jackson, I'm not really sure. I don't think he knows what he was doing on that play. It's just one of those plays where it was just so bad by so many players that you question those guys' talent almost from one play. It's ridiculous. Shouldn't really see anything like that. But really all night, the amount of sacks that the Broncos had, the amount of pressure they put on Sam Darnold, they could have had much more. They could have had a lot more sacks. They just couldn't bring him down. Darnold was a little quick with his feet, but then there was some sacks that I do put on Sam Darnold. So it did feel like the Broncos controlled, I would say, the first half, but most of this game for the most part there. That Judy catch on Pierre Desir. It was a good play by Judy. Watching it again and again, it did bounce off Desir's helmet. So a little bit of luck there, but it was a good play by Judy. I like how he just kind of walked backwards in the end. So that was kind of funny. But it looked like the Broncos controlled most of this game. And it looked like it was just pretty plain and simple. The Broncos were going to win this game. And then Brett Rippon, throwing those interceptions, and then kind of back-to-back pretty much there, two consecutive drives series there for the Broncos, throwing the picks, one for a pick six. And the Jets actually took the lead. I just could not believe that the Jets took the lead at that point. And then the Broncos went down there and scored, though, or got the field goal, actually, and then they ended up scoring again with Melvin Gordon. But, interesting game. Yeah, like I said, felt like the Broncos had it really locked up, and then I guess their quarterback play put the Jets back in position. Yeah, the players on the Jets made some plays. I'm going to credit Greg Williams on one of the picks. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, it felt like the Broncos quarterback play kind of was beating themselves was beating the Broncos at some point. But talk about some positives and negatives, some takeaways from this game. Yeah, the Broncos pass rush was a positive. It was after Sam Darnold all day. They could have had more sacks. So Darnold did avoid some sacks. But there was a lot of sacks that were just on him. Guys coming straight at him, doesn't throw the ball away, has open receivers. There's not a lot of, there's a lot of people have been blaming, and that's why Sam Darnold's kind of in the negative column. He missed some throws. He did hit some throws. He did make people miss with his legs, but missed some throws. Took a lot of sacks. Missed open, didn't see open receivers. It was a weird game for him, but it seems like people want to blame what's around him, and yeah, it could be better, and that could help Darnold, but really, like, the receivers he had in this game, the weapons he had, didn't really affect Darnold in this game. It just really didn't. A lot of the mistakes were just on him. Taking sacks, and there was guys open. Crowder was playing a really good game. It's just kind of on him. We seen him sack himself in this game. He kind of just stumbled, fell over, and that's something you don't really see happen at all, but let alone, good quarterbacks. So there's still a lot of sloppy play there, still a long ways to go for Sam Darnold, and quarterbacks really don't develop traits or really don't improve that much at this point of their career. It's usually maybe year one off of that. So, starting to doubt it a little bit, a guy I was never really high on in the first place, but never really doubted his potential, is the ability to get better, but now it's starting to fall down a little bit here. And he doesn't have the best coaching, he doesn't have the best play calling, he doesn't have the best talent, but that really wasn't a big reason why he was taking sacks, or he sacked himself, or he wouldn't throw the ball to open receivers. So that really wasn't, and the Broncos pass rush did affect them, but good quarterbacks find ways around pass rush. I mean, Russell Wilson probably gets, rushed more than anybody in the NFL or up there, and he still makes those big plays. And yeah, nobody was expecting Darnold to be Russell Wilson, but Mahomes, you can't blitz the guy because he just beats it. He just beats it. You gotta find ways around these things. And Darnold has not been able to do that and has looked pretty sloppy trying to do it. He did get hurt in this game. I did like that he came back in the game. People were saying he probably broke his collarbone, so that ended up not being the case, but a pretty tough dude, and was able to use his legs a bit in this game. So, I mean, you can give him credit in that regard there. But, the Broncos pass rush was big time. Chubb getting that sack. Taking a sack on fourth down is never good. But that one I actually don't put on him. Instant pressure was from behind. Maybe a better quarterback wouldn't let it happen. But that one, I don't really blame that one. It was a big time play for Chubb. I was kind of waiting for him to show up. He's been a little quiet. Was a little quiet in the very, very early in this game, but then really got going. I think he had 2.5 sacks. So a big day from Bradley Chubb, a day that he should have there. Run defense for the Broncos was impressive. They couldn't get Frank Gore going, and Gase kind of insisted on him at times. They couldn't get him going. You almost expect the Broncos to kind of shut that down in a way. When Darnold ran, that was a different story, but I don't really call that run defense. So, I talking about running, design runs, running the ball. Josie Jewell and Mike Purcell were two guys that really stood out in the run game. Multiple guys played well, but those two guys I thought were all over the place, making big plays, sniffing out plays in the backfield. Those guys stood out the most. Mike Purcell, dominating the line, and Jewell, obviously the one of the linebackers. I felt like he wasn't really supposed to be a starter going into this year too. It was going to be Todd Davis, who they surprisingly dropped, and they brought in Mark Barron. There was kind of some thoughts that they can go with him, but Jewell, has been stepping up. He's been stepping up, playing pretty solid. Melvin Gordon, kind of positives and negatives. There was times where he had some really good runs, kind of had to take that second lane, that second option, had to bounce things out. And there were some times where he hit the hole pretty hard, looked faster than he normally did. Getting in the end zone, that last run was kind of a broken play on the defense, but that's a low percentage score there. He scored. So there was moments like that where he looked good. And there was some times where, he was hesitating a little bit, wasn't going full speed at the hole. And kind of went into tacklers a bit. Run blocking sure didn't help him. So overall, I thought Melvin Gordon played pretty good. There was more positives for sure than negatives, but it could have been better. Could have been a huge day for him, which ended up being, fantasy-wise, pretty good day with that late touchdown. Pretty clutch for some teams, fantasy teams. But, yeah, I expected Gordon to run pretty well. I thought he did here in this game. Having that impact player was key there. Noah Fant was getting things going. You look at the stats, it won't really show, but I think there was some crucial third downs. Sometimes they would throw it short of the sticks, and he would fight his way, use his athletic ability, but his strength, he put on some physicality, some strength since coming in already. So I thought he was better than maybe the stats would show. The stats probably don't show too much. I'm not a bit, I don't really know exactly what they say, but I thought he played better than what they may show. He did get hurt, but he got carted off. From what I've heard, it's minor. He's actually okay, so that's good. You got a little bit of a scare there for their stud tight end for now and for the future. So I thought he played pretty good. Tim Patrick was pretty solid. He kind of looked like their best receiver. Yeah, Judy made a pretty good catch out there, but it felt like Patrick was their best receiver, which is a good thing and a bad thing because he was good. That late drive had that. I think it was a third down. He had that, the great grab, the toe tap. It's a play he should make, but it was good to see him make that play. If Rippon throws that ball inside a little more, it's probably a touchdown because Tim Patrick absolutely torched the cornerback on that play. So I thought he stood out as well on the offensive side. KJ Hamler did get hurt early. I worry about that. We've seen him out most of the pre-draft process because of minor injuries, and they're kind of already popping up. They popped up in training camp. They had a hamstring issue. Maybe it was the Jets field. People have been complaining about that. But I worry that's going to continue to pop up because he's an undersized dude, and I don't want to doubt the undersized guys. But if it keeps popping up like it's concerning. So you draft these two receivers. There's so much hope. Sutton gets hurt, and it looks like Tim Patrick's their best receiver right now. And I think the problem with that is, Hamler did get hurt, but the problem with Judy and Hamler, and really my only concern. Well, Hamler I had the concern of drops more so than Judy. But my only concern, on the field really with them is can they beat NFL zone coverage, because those are man coverage win guys because of their speed, because of their footwork, and you see these just beautifully designed zone coverages in the NFL, way different than college football. And that negative, it's way too early to judge, but that negative's kind of showing up. And why, you look at Judy, you remember watching him at Bama, and he's always open, and you may be wondering, why the hell is this guy not open? Is this quarterback not throwing the ball? And a little bit of that, but it's mainly because NFL zone coverage. And that's why a guy like CeeDee Lamb, a guy like Justin Jefferson were actually safer picks, even though I think all of us had Judy higher just because of the upside. He's going to be fantastic. He's going to be good, the athletic ability, the footwork, the speed. But that's why those guys were safer picks, because they were proven to beat those types of zone coverages. So a little more of a, I guess, not lengthy, but I guess a work in progress for those guys. Those guys will get good if they're healthy. They definitely will get good. But then, people wondering, why aren't they getting more snaps than guys like Tim Patrick? And why isn't Judy getting as many snaps as Tim Patrick? Why isn't he playing better than Tim Patrick? That would be the reason. It's really nothing alarming. It's good that there's a reason out there. So it's almost a positive in a way. But yeah, going against these really good zone coverages. And again, I want to talk about Greg Williams and his zone coverage a little bit. But yeah, tackling Darnold was a negative. We talked about that. Rippon was actually playing pretty well. That early interception, early in the game where I don't know where he was going with that. It was like half of a throwaway, half not, threw it right to him. That was really the only bad thing early. And, other than that, he was making some tight throws, some good throws, deep out routes, perfect balls, perfect velocity on the ball. He had a touchdown. It was a quick slant. It had to be in the most perfect spot, and it was throws like that. But then that first interception was bad, and the next two were bad. So he kind of let them back in the game. I put too much trust there. Did they have too much trust in Rippon? And I don't really hate that, because I hate when teams go conservative, but they kind of went the opposite of that. A guy that you shouldn't have trusted that much, still don't run the ball first down, second down, third down, and just give the team the ball back. But, they were just going all-out pass when they had a comfy lead, and it felt like they were going to just walk away with the game, the Broncos, that is. So, and I'm surprised by Shermer in that, because Shermer in the past, I always liked him. But one knock on him is he would get a little conservative, so he kind of went against himself with a backup, with their third option at quarterback. Well, I guess second, because Driscoll got benched for him. But I think Driscoll probably would have been better. The Bucs defense, I think, is one of the best in football compared to the Jets defense. So I think Driscoll would have been better. They put Driscoll in for that bootleg run, which I kind of like. It should have been obvious, though, for the Jets. The Jets edge rushers were to blame on that. They got sucked in. They got fooled. And again, Greg goes into Greg Williams too. We're gonna talk about a lot with that, and we can kind of get going on that now. Yeah, the Rippon The second interception kind of goes into that. But first, the positive, really one of the positives from the Jets. Quinn Williams is a stud. It's really not a surprise. Was very high on him in the draft. He's still very young. He is the Jets' run defense. It felt like anytime there was a big-time run stop, it was Quinn Williams. The guy's a freak. He was getting constant pressure. I think he had 2 roughing the passer calls. I remember one specific. I thought he had 2. It could have been 1, but he was constantly in the quarterback's face, constantly getting pressure. And a lot of these are going to turn into sacks, and that's why pressure is kind of a good thing, especially for interior D lineman. It's eventually going to turn into sacks. This guy, I have no worries about this guy. He's an absolute stud. He's going to be something else. Let's talk about Greg Williams here. A lot to talk about with Greg Williams. And I put him in yellow here because you see I got green and the graphic. And there's a lot. If you're hopefully you listen to the video, don't skim through because there's a lot more I talk about than just I only could fit so much in there. But green's obviously positive. Yellow's kind of in the middle. I talked about Melvin Gordon was mainly positive. That's gonna be the same thing for Greg Williams. I think Greg Williams is a heck of a defensive coach. They need to get him more talent. You look at his zone coverage, his the way he calls the defense in general, and it's just basically what guys like Quinn Williams and I think Marcus May stands out a bit. But you look at that second interception from Rippon, it was the pick 6, and watching that live, I talk about it on Twitter. I always try to analyze plays real quick live, before the next play, and I got fooled. I think everybody got fooled. Like Rippon got fooled, and it looks like a terrible, terrible interception. And it is, in a way it is, but it's not as bad. It's not that simple, and it's a throw he shouldn't make. But it was why this happens and where the credit goes is to how that play, that defense, that coverage was designed by Greg Williams. It was actually cover 2 live. I think we all thought it was man coverage. Brett Rippon thought it was man coverage, and that was because there was really no safeties deep. You saw Marcus May kind of creeping up in the box. And Desir is following, and that design, that's a pretty good offensive design there on that play. They almost designed those plays perfectly for each other, and kind of Greg Williams' play call, defensive coverage call on that play was absolutely perfect. So what was supposed to happen there, Desir was supposed to get taken out of the play there, and he was following the receiver, the vert straight up the field, and it looked, and that is what Rippon read. At times it kind of looked like maybe he didn't see Desir, but no, I think he saw him. I think he read man coverage. There was no safety dropping back because they were all in the box right off the rip. Because just think about how much time you actually have to think about what coverage they're in to kind of develop what the defense is running in your head. That's why quarterback is so hard. That's why receiver is kind of hard too, because you have to be able to read coverages as a receiver as well. You don't have long, though, is my point. So he sees Marcus Mays in the box, the safeties are in the box, and Desir is, in cover 2, usually kind of stay tight and then fall off. You're kind of looking at the quarterback the whole time, and you stay in the flats, which could be anywhere from 5 to 7 yards. And Desir went a little longer than that, but it looked like he was really focused on the receiver. It looked like he was, with him, man coverage. Nobody's dropping back. I'm going to throw this ball. He throws the ball at the same exact time. Desir turns around and stops in that flat, a little deeper of a flat. And then Marcus May comes from the box and drops back and takes the vert. He actually stepped up pretty quick because he saw the ball being thrown, so maybe you won't be able to tell that. But that was a cover 2 trap. It is meant to look like man coverage, but it is actually cover 2, and it was the most beautifully designed coverage and perfect for that play, and that was what got the pick 6. So I originally thought Desir was in man coverage like the whole world thought, and I thought he left. I thought it was an insane play by Desir. It is still a good play by Desir, but that was actually his job. Marcus May had the deep halves there in the cover too because safeties got deep. So this was just Greg Williams, just a beautifully designed coverage there. And that just gets me thinking, look at the talent that he has on defense. It's really not there. He's got Quinn Williams. He's supposed to have C.J. Mosley. If you remember, they were signing Anthony Barr a couple off seasons ago, and then he actually went against his word. I wish they would. And Anthony Barr really hasn't been playing that great, but I think he would have been really good in Greg Williams' scheme. I think they would have used him more as a weapon, more as an edge rusher. So I really wish they got him. But it's really Quinn Williams out there. I think Marcus May is pretty solid. And then you see why they traded for Jamal Adams. They traded away Jamal Adams. Really good player. They would definitely be better with him right now. But with the load of picks they got, that makes more sense because edge rushers and corners around a guy like Quinnen Williams is going to be the key in this defense. Marcus May, and they have Bradley McDougald, but I like Ashton Davis a lot. I think Marcus May and Ashton Davis, who is a rookie this year, we're going to see more of in the future, I think are perfect for Greg Williams' scheme. It's not that important of jobs, but Marcus May can do quite a bit. He's not Jamal Adams, but he can do things that Jamal Adams can do. And Ashton Davis will be a good deep man in coverage, single high free safety when you need it. It's just not that important of a position where edge rusher in corner, which he's lacking big time, is very important. And if you get that around Quinnen Williams, in Greg Williams' scheme, his system, his defensive play calling, his mind, you're going to have a heck of a defense, a really good defense. So in a way, this trade could be really good because you're going to get what you need. Hopefully, you got to hit on draft picks like you haven't been doing. But I do like Ashton Davis pick. The Quinnen Williams pick was the right pick to make. So they've had their hits here and there. But Greg Williams could be gone in no time. If Adam Gase gets fired, which a lot, they had a lot of trust in him, so who knows what's going to happen. But with the way things are going, he's probably going to get fired. And I don't think they promote Greg Williams they could to interim head coach. I don't know if they do that. That'll be a tough if they fire Gase midseason. I almost think they fire him at the end of the season and they bring in somebody else. And I would recommend teams bring in offensive minds these days. I think it's a little silly to, just a pure defensive mind. If you got a mixture of both, Matt Rule at the Panthers hired, I think a good mind on both sides of the ball, and that's great. I think you bring in it's where the league's heading. You bring in an offensive minded coach. So Greg Williams might be gone. That'd be a great hire as a defensive coordinator for the Jets or anywhere, but the new guy might bring in his own thing. So then they'll be without Jamal Adams. So it works it's a mess. It's a great trade for a Greg Williams scheme. It might be a great trade for whoever comes in next or other schemes as well, other minds on the defensive side, but they're kind of all over the place, making trades for long term to stick it out with this group. But are they, kind of back and forth? But the negative of Greg Williams is kind of what happened at the end of the game there, which I definitely want to talk about here. Is it seems like there's so much football being played. The main talk is kind of Greg Williams and what was going on with that. Vic Fangio refused to shake his hand, told his team not to. And I think it was a weird ending. There was some personal fouls there. There's some late hit, roughing the quarterback. And I don't really mind. This is what I don't mind. I see people complaining about this. Like, what are they supposed to do? Just let them throw. They're throwing the ball. And I agree with that. Like, they shouldn't, ease up or take plays off. Play. They're there to play. They want to hit somebody. If I was out there, I'd want to hit somebody. I don't know if I would be able to, with those types of guys. But anybody that's out there wants to hit somebody, and that's what their job is. They're going out there to attack the quarterback. So I don't blame them for going full go. But I think the problem is you look out throughout the game. I don't really know if it's at the end. I think that was kind of the final straw for Vic Fangio, and you put yourself in his shoes and the kind of the build-up. But I look at throughout the entire game, and there were some bad ones early where they were just clear late hits. They were just clear shots to the head. And I'm thinking this is an undisciplined team. And I'm thinking Adam Gase doesn't have control over his guys like we heard over practice. There's no control over practice. They're weird practices. They're not, they're half-assing things because of the coaching staff's half-assing things. So I think Gase is a reason these guys are undisciplined. But you think Greg Williams and what's in his past, and yeah, maybe he tells them never to let up and hit guys when you have the chance to hit them, and it's football. So I mean, yeah, I teach guys to go full go hit, but I don't know, they're just hitting so late where they're just undisciplined, and that's just poor coaching on their part. So I think it was a build up from the early in the game till late, why Vic Fangio was pissed, and I don't think he's really in the wrong there. I don't know if Greg Williams is really in the wrong. I mean, it's more on himself than, I don't know if he's really telling guys to go hurt guys. I think he's just telling them to go, I mean, he has in the past, but I think he's just telling them to go, full go. But where it's his fault is hurting his own team. He's got to make sure his players are not making stupid plays. It's at the point where it's stupid plays. So that was kind of the negative from Greg Williams. But I think he's a really good defensive mind, and I was impressed from what I saw in this game. But it's going to be an interesting situation if he's there or not. And with the whole Jamal Adams trade, because I think it actually could be a good thing, but it depends on who the defensive coordinator is. It felt like they were doing something to let this ride out, but then are they going to fire? And I do think Gase needs to be fired. I think play calling is pretty rough. I mean, you look at and play calling's been bad for Adam Gase. He hasn't been a good decision maker. He hasn't really had good teams. So I ripped this hire from the get-go, which I think a lot of people did. And he definitely should be fired, I think, at some point at least. But yeah, and the play calling was interesting. You look at last year, they kind of didn't. Le'Veon Bell wasn't playing that great or anything. He could play better. He wasn't playing bad, but they kind of went away from him. They wouldn't really throw him the ball. They wouldn't give him the ball. It was kind of insisting on the quarterback, and you see Darnold miss a lot of time. And now this year, Le'Veon Bell's out, and he's almost insisting on Gore. We have design plays where he's getting the ball down, throwing the ball downfield. I mean, that's a veteran running back. That's not really a downfield receiving option, especially at his age. And then it feels like there's so many second down runs. It's ridiculous, especially 2nd and 10. You're playing for third down. I can't stand when they play for third down. Like you know Gore is not. Most running backs aren't. You can't expect them to get 10 yards, or if it's 2nd and 8, you can't expect them to get 8 yards. I think you're banking on that too much. You're playing to get an easier task for your quarterback on third down, which says a lot about what you think about your quarterback, first off. But it's just, you're setting up for failure. You're setting up for 3 and outs. You're setting up for harder situations. You're setting up for field goals if you're getting across the territory of your team, your opponent's territory, I should say. So he needs to go. One thing I will say is that the front office before, the front office now, which Gase had a big role at drafting, really, too. So it's kind of a knock on him, but they just did not supply the talent. And that's, I look at the Jets even before the injuries and before the opt-outs. I didn't predict them to be that good, and people were kind of surprised. Maybe it's just Jets fans, but they did not build the team right. There is not enough, and that's why I picked the Broncos in this team. The Broncos actually had more injuries. They should have had, and I think they did. They had the worst quarterback in this duo. It's pretty sad that it's not that far off, but I picked them because they have more impact players. They were able to hit on more players in the draft. And that's how you build. That's how you build teams. That's how you build championship teams. And Quinn Williams was the no-brainer. You got a heck of a player there. I think I like Ashton Davis. I think that'll work out. But we haven't seen him yet. So there's picks that I think I like. It's an assumption. But there's really, Quinn Williams was a hit. I like Denzel Mims. When are we going to see him, though? It's just a disaster over there. They just have not hit on draft picks, and that's where you start. That's where you build the team. So the whole thing's a mess, and Gase needs to go. They need to find the right guy that can draft. It's a sad situation. The Becton situation was interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that, where he hurt his shoulder, and that's kind of and I think they hit on Becton too. To add that, I liked Becton. I think that was a good pick, and he's looked good so far. We already know he was approved. I talked about it all offseason. This guy's going to come in and be a really good run blocking tackle right off the bat. It's just pass protection, which I'm not worried about, but there could be some struggles early on. But he's been fantastic, and this is kind of your franchise. It feels like what's going to protect your current franchise, who you think's franchise quarterback, but they'll probably start looking for one. This is your piece. This is your big guy on offense. And he hurt his shoulder, and I don't really get why he dressed in the first place. That was kind of odd for insurance, I guess, for safety. But if he's hurt, he's hurt. If he's not, he should be starting. So either way, it makes no sense. I think the third play, Adoga goes down, and they put Becton in immediately. He's holding his shoulder after plays. You can see he's hurt. So that was pure stupidity, man. I like toughness. Becton's a tough dude. If I'm a coach, I'm harsh. I'm tough. But on my players, but that's not the same. It's just stupidity, especially given that it could be a franchise piece right there. So it's just once again on Adam Gase there. It's they don't have anything under control over there. It's an absolute mess. They got a long ways to go. A lot of interesting situations, like I said. Interesting to see where the Broncos quarterback will be. I heard Drew Lock can come back sooner, actually, than we all thought. So I don't know with these injuries. You kind of get a feeling that this guy's coming back this week, but he's not back, and he ends up being, you look at George Kittle, a guy like that. They were talking about he was going to be back, not even missed 1 week, and then he ends up missing a couple weeks. That's just one of many examples. So you just never know. But I think it's, I don't know, Rippon almost cost him the game. There was some bright spots for Rippon. I know it was his first game, but I would almost prefer to go Driscoll. I would prefer to go Bortles. I think Bortles got to be ready. He's much better than Driscoll and Rippon. Bortles has got some ripping. He's got some bashing in the past, but he's much better than those guys. I would like to see the guy get another shot. So we'll see what they do there. Definitely an interesting game. McManus was, that's a guy you got to highlight too. Was clutch for them, making the big time field goals. I feel like 95% of the kickers, just choke in those situations. Those are not easy field goals. A lot of pressure. even though time wasn't expiring or anything. So, yeah, it just looked like the Broncos were going to win this game. They were going to easily win this game, and all of a sudden Rippon kind of gave it back. Credit to Greg Williams, credit to guys that made plays. Then they were back in the game. Yeah, they did kick the field goal instead of going for it on fourth and short. There's really no wrong decision there. I would have went for it because, yeah, in hindsight, you should have went for it. But I was tweeting that I would go for it, and I'm kind of backtracking now. And the reason being is if you get the first down, which you should, if you don't get that first down, you got a problem. You don't deserve to win, really. But if you get that first down, which you should have confidence, and they didn't, you should have confidence you can get it. He's got confidence in Frank Gore when it's 2nd and 10. Gase, man. He's got confidence in Gore at 2nd and 10, but he don't have confidence in Gore or anybody when it's 4th and a centimeter, 4th and inches. It's not. It was more than a centimeter. It was inch, maybe just short of a yard, maybe. But the reason you go for that, you should get it, and you control the clock then. 6 minutes in running, maybe a little less. You punch the ball in the end zone. If you don't, you have to end up kicking a field goal. You ran how much more clock down? It would have been a guaranteed field goal. I know they hit the field goal anyways. And the Broncos may not have been able to do what they did. So the Jets were given gifts. They were given gifts, and I'm just realizing this stuff as I'm talking about. They were given gifts with Rippon's interceptions, and they could not take advantage. Well, the defense had to score on that pick six, which it was a gimme, but it was a great design play by Greg Williams. Desir had to make the play. He made the play. Guys had to do their job, but man, so Gase kind of chokes in a way as well because. It's not necessarily the wrong call. At the end of the day, it was the wrong call. But I think most coaches would have went for it. There's no confidence, no balls, no urgency to put the game away, no trust when you have interesting trust, random trust in random situations. It just makes no sense. So the Jets actually could have won the game if they would have went for it that there. I think they would have actually. I would actually say, and the Broncos would have had a chance, and they could have used their timeouts. But there would have been a lot less clock left. And they would have had no timeouts if they used them to save the clock. So clock would have been much, much harder. And McManus could have drilled it. I mean, that guy can drill 60-plus yarder as well. But so the Broncos could have won. But I think, yeah, in a way, the Jets kind of choked there. The Broncos tried to choke it away. Really, one player tried to choke it away. But, yeah, weird game, sloppy game. It was entertaining in a way. Way too many penalties. There was quite a few I didn't agree with, but a lot was just stupid plays by the team where it was the right call, So hoping for better football on Sunday, Monday. I think we should get that at least on Sunday. But that's gonna do it for this one. We are back with this video every single Friday. I do a Monday recap video that is covering all the Sunday games. I do that every Monday. We recap Monday games on Wednesday night podcast. And we got all kinds of predictions, everything. We got literally everything here at the Goat House. So please please subscribe. We got you covered. Turn notifications on. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.